I'm about to tell you about a case that's so disturbing, so absolutely vile, that it literally changed how Britain thinks about evil. And I'm not exaggerating. I'm not being dramatic for clicks. This case, the Moor's murders, is genuinely one of the worst things humans have ever done to children. And here's the thing that's gonna make you angry. It could have been stopped. Multiple times. People knew something was wrong. They ignored it. They looked the other way. And 5 children died because of it. So if you want the full story, the real horror of what happened in Manchester between 1963 and 1965, and why this case still haunts Britain 60 years later, hit that subscribe button right now. Because I'm about to walk you through every nauseating detail, and I promise you, this is not the sanitized version you've seen in other documentaries. This is the truth, and it's worse than you think. July 1963, Manchester, England. A regular working-class neighborhood where everyone knows everyone, where kids play in the streets until dark, where you don't lock your doors because why would you? And into this world comes a couple, Brady and Myra Hindley. Now, here's where I need you to pay attention, because the way this relationship worked is crucial to understanding how they did what they did. Brady was born in 1938 in Glasgow. His childhood was rough, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Illegitimate kid, never knew his dad, raised by foster parents. But, and this is important, lots of people have terrible childhoods and don't become serial killers. So, we're not doing the whole sad backstory excuses murder thing. Brady was intelligent, he read obsessively, he was into Nazi ideology and sadism and the Marquis de Sade. By his teens, he was already committing crimes, petty theft, that kind of thing. He moves to Manchester in his early 20s and gets a job as a stock clerk at a chemical company. And that's where he meets Myra Hindley. Myra Hindley. Born 1942, working-class Catholic girl from Manchester. By all accounts, she was normal, unremarkable. Went to church, had a job, lived with her grandmother, and then she met Brady, and everything changed. Here's what drives me crazy about how people talk about Hindley. They act like she was this innocent victim who got corrupted by Brady, like he brainwashed her or controlled her or whatever. And, yeah, he definitely influenced her. But here's the thing. You can be influenced and still be responsible for your own actions. She made choices. Terrible, evil choices. And we're going to talk about that. Brady starts working at this company in January 1961. Hindley's already there. She becomes obsessed with him. Writes in her diary about how she's in love with him, how she wants him to notice her. He ignores her for months. Finally, in December 1961, he asks her out. They start dating, and within 2 years, they're murdering children together. July 12, 1963. Friday night. Pauline Reed, 16 years old, is going to a dance. She's got her whole life ahead of her. She's wearing a pink dress. She's excited. It's summer. She's a teenager. Life is good. She leaves her house around 8 p.m. She never makes it to the dance. Myra Hindley spots her on the street. Now, Pauline knows Myra. They're neighbors. Myra's little sister Maureen is friends with Pauline. So when Myra pulls up in a van and asks if Pauline can help her find a glove she lost on Saddleworth Moor, Pauline doesn't think twice. Why would she? This is someone she knows, someone she trusts. She gets in the van. Brady is hiding in the back. They drive to Saddleworth Moor, this desolate moorland outside Manchester. Miles of nothing. Peat bogs, hills, no houses, no people, just empty land. And that's where they kill her. Brady sexually assaults her, then cuts her throat. Hindley watches, helps. They bury her body in a shallow grave on the moor. Then they drive home and go about their lives like nothing happened. Pauline's family reports her missing. The police search. They find nothing. She's just gone. And for 24 years, her family has no idea what happened to her. 24 years of not knowing if she's alive, if she's dead, if she's suffering somewhere. Can you imagine? Can you actually imagine what that does to a family? And Brady and Hindley? They go back to work on Monday like it's just another weekend. November 23rd, 1963. John Kilbride, 12 years old. He's at the market in Ashton-under-Lyne with some friends. It's Saturday. He's just a kid doing normal kid things. Hindley approaches him. Again, she's got this friendly, trustworthy face. Nobody suspects the woman. That's the thing that made them so effective. If Brady had approached these kids alone, they might have been wary. But Myra? She's just a nice lady. She's harmless. She offers John a lift home. Says she'll pay him to help her load some boxes. Easy money for a 12-year-old kid. He agrees. Same pattern. They drive to Saddleworth Moor. Same desolate emptiness. Brady sexually assaults him, strangles him. They bury him in a shallow grave. John's family reports him missing. Massive search operation. Police, volunteers, everyone's looking. They search everywhere, except the moors. Because why would you think to look there? There's nothing there. It's just empty land. And again, Brady and Hindley get away with it. No one suspects them. Why would they? They're just a regular couple. She's a nice Catholic girl. He's a quiet, bookish guy. They don't fit anyone's idea of what a murderer looks like. June 16th, 1964. Keith Bennett, 12 years old. He's walking to his grandmother's house. It's evening, still light out. He's walking down a street he's walked 100 times before. Hindley stops him. Asks if he'll help her load some boxes into her van. She'll give him some money. Keith's a good kid, helpful, polite. He says yes. You know what happens next. Saddleworth Moor. Sexual assault. Murder. Shallow grave. Keith's mother, Winnie Johnson, spends the rest of her life searching for her son. The rest of her life. She dies in 2012, never knowing where Keith is buried, never getting to give him a proper funeral, never getting closure. And here's what makes me absolutely furious. Ian Brady knew where Keith was buried. He knew. And he refused to tell anyone. Even decades later, when he's in prison, when he's dying, when there's literally no reason to keep this secret anymore, he won't say where Keith is. Why? Because he's a sadistic psychopath who enjoys causing pain. That's it. That's the only reason. He wanted Keith's family to suffer. He wanted that pain to continue. Keith Bennett's body has never been found. To this day, he's still out there on those moors somewhere. His family still doesn't have closure. Think about that for a second. Just think about that. Okay, before I tell you about Leslie Ann Downey, I need to warn you. This one is worse. This is the one that, when the details came out at trial, made grown men cry in the courtroom. This is the one that made even hardened police officers physically sick. December 26, 1964. Boxing Day. Leslie Ann Downey, 10 years old, is at a fair. She's having fun. It's the day after Christmas. Everything's exciting and bright and happy. Hindley approaches her. Same routine. Offers her a lift. Says she'll help her find something. Whatever lie works. Leslie follows her. They take her back to Hindley's house. Brady's grandmother is out. They have the place to themselves. And here's where it gets worse than anything we've talked about so far. They take photographs of her. Pornographic photographs. They tape record her begging for her life. We know this because the police found the photographs and the tape recording. That tape recording was played at trial. 16 minutes of a 10-year-old girl begging, crying, asking for her mom, asking them to let her go. And you can hear Brady and Hindley in the background. Hindley's voice is cold, emotionless, telling Leslie to stop crying, to be quiet. Brady's giving her instructions for the photographs. 16 minutes. And then they killed her. They buried her body on Saddleworth Moor like the others. When that tape was played at trial, people in the courtroom were sobbing. The judge had to call for breaks. Jurors were traumatized. This wasn't just murder. This was prolonged torture of a child. And throughout the trial, Myra Hindley sat there with this blank expression. No remorse, no emotion, nothing. Before we continue, and we need to continue because this story isn't over, hit that subscribe button, because what happens next is somehow both predictable and unbelievable, and you need to understand how these monsters finally got caught. October 6, 1965. Edward Evans, 17 years old. He's at a train station in Manchester. Brady picks him up. Some sources suggest Edward might have been a sex worker, or that Brady thought he was. Either way, Brady lures him back to Hindley's house. Now, here's where things change. Because this time, there's a witness. David Smith. He's married to Myra Hindley's younger sister, Maureen. He's 17 years old. And on this night, Brady and Hindley invite him over to the house. While David Smith is there, Brady attacks Edward Evans with an axe. Right there in the living room. Just starts smashing this kid's head in with an axe. And Myra Hindley is holding down Edward's legs while Brady kills him. David Smith watches this happen. He's terrified. He's 17. He doesn't know what to do. Brady and Hindley are acting like this is normal, like they do this all the time. Which, of course, they do. They clean up the blood. They wrap the body. Brady's talking about how he's killed before, how it's easy, how they bury the bodies on the moors. He's bragging. And David Smith is just frozen, playing along because he's terrified they'll kill him too. Eventually, they let him leave. He goes home to Maureen, and he tells her what happened. Now, here's the question everyone asks. Why didn't David Smith go to the police immediately? And the answer is complicated. He was young. He was scared. He'd seen what they were capable of. He wasn't sure anyone would believe him. He thought maybe he'd imagined it or misunderstood. But Maureen convinces him. They wait until morning, then they call the police from a phone box. The police show up at Hindley's house. They're skeptical at first. This sounds insane. A couple murdering people? In suburban Manchester? But they search the house anyway. And they find Edward Evans's body wrapped in plastic in the spare bedroom. October 7th, 1965. Ian Brady and Myra Hindley are arrested for the murder of Edward Evans. At first, they think it's just one murder. Horrible, yes. But one crime of passion or whatever. Then the police start searching the house more thoroughly. They find photographs, not the pornographic ones of Leslie Ann Downey yet, but photos of Saddleworth Moor. Lots of them. Brady and Hindley apparently like to go back to the burial sites to take pictures standing near the graves. Like souvenirs. The police start to realize this might be bigger than one murder. They find a left luggage ticket. It's for Manchester Central Station. They retrieve 2 suitcases. Inside, they find pornographic photographs of Leslie Ann Downey. They find the tape recording. They find books about sexual sadism. They find detailed plans and notes. The police are horrified, and they start to understand. There are more victims. They begin searching Saddleworth Moor. This is October in northern England. Cold, wet. Miserable conditions. And the moors are huge. Miles and miles of peat bog and hills. Finding bodies buried in shallow graves is like finding needles in a haystack. But they search. Teams of police, volunteers, everyone. Using poles to probe the ground, looking for disturbed earth, anything that might indicate a grave. October 16th, 1965. They find Leslie Ann Downey's body. October 21st, 1965. They find John Kilbride's body. Brady and Hindley are charged with multiple murders. The search continues, but they don't find Pauline Reed or Keith Bennett. Not yet. And Brady and Hindley aren't talking. They're not confessing. They're not saying where the other bodies are. The trial starts April 19th, 1966. It's one of the most sensational trials in British history. The courtroom is packed. The media coverage is insane. Everyone wants to know. How could two people do something this evil? The prosecution lays out the evidence, the photographs, the tape recording, the testimony from David Smith about watching Brady murder Edward Evans. And then they play the tape. 16 minutes of Leslie Ann Downey begging for her life. People in the courtroom are crying. Some have to leave. It's too much. Too awful. This isn't abstract anymore. This isn't just a story about murdered children. This is the actual sound of a child being tortured. Throughout all of this, Myra Hindley maintains her innocence. She admits to being present, to helping dispose of the bodies, but she claims she was scared of Brady, that he forced her to participate. Brady doesn't even bother with that defense. He's arrogant, defiant. He doesn't show remorse. He acts like this is all beneath him. May 6th, 1966. The verdicts come in. Ian Brady, guilty of all 3 murders they charged him with, Edward Evans, Leslie Ann Downey, and John Kilbride. Sentenced to life in prison. Myra Hindley, guilty of 2 murders, Edward Evans and Leslie Ann Downey. Guilty of being an accessory to the murder of John Kilbride. Also sentenced to life in prison. The judge recommends they never be released. And he's not being dramatic. He literally means never. These 2 should die in prison. So, 20 years go by. Brady and Hindley are in prison. Hindley's in a women's prison. Brady's in a regular prison at first, then gets transferred to a psychiatric hospital because he's clearly insane. And during these 20 years, something interesting happens. Hindley starts this campaign claiming she's reformed. She's found God. She's changed. She's sorry. She should be released. She gives interviews, she writes letters, she's got supporters. Some people actually believe her. Brady, on the other hand, doesn't pretend. He's exactly what he is, a sadistic psychopath who enjoys what he did. In 1985, a journalist named Fred Harrison starts looking into the case. He thinks there are more victims. He starts interviewing Brady, building rapport. And in 1986, Brady confesses to 2 more murders, Pauline Reed and Keith Bennett. So now the police know for certain there are at least 5 victims, and they need to find the other 2 bodies. Hindley, seeing that Brady's confessed, decides to confess as well. Claims she's trying to help the families get closure, but really, she's trying to get parole, to show she's cooperating. They both agree to take police to the burial sites. November 1986. They take Hindley to Saddleworth Moor. With all this media coverage, all these cameras, it's a circus. She walks around the moor, pointing at places, saying, maybe here, maybe there. She can't remember exactly, or won't say. December 1987. They take Brady to the moor. Same thing. He's vague, unhelpful, enjoys watching everyone scramble around looking. July 1987. They finally find Pauline Reed's body, 24 years after she died. Her family finally has an answer. Finally gets to bury her. But they never find Keith Bennett. Despite multiple searches, despite using ground-penetrating radar and cadaver dogs and every technology available, nothing. He's still out there somewhere. So, here's the question that haunts everyone who learns about this case. Why? Why did they do it? And I'm going to be honest with you. There's no satisfying answer, because the truth is, some people are just evil. I know that's not scientific. I know that's not a psychological diagnosis, but it's true. Ian Brady was a sadist. He got sexual pleasure from causing pain. He was into Nazi ideology, into the idea of being above normal morality, into the writings of the Marquis de Sade. He saw himself as superior to everyone else, and he saw other people, especially children, as objects for his entertainment. Myra Hindley is more complicated, and this is where people argue. Some people say she was brainwashed by Brady, that she was young, impressionable, that he manipulated her. And sure, he definitely influenced her. But here's my take, and you can disagree with me. At some point, you're responsible for your own actions. She participated. Actively. She lured the children into the van. She held down Edward Evans's legs while Brady killed him. She took photographs of Leslie Ann Downey. She helped bury the bodies. She went back to the graves and posed for pictures. That's not being brainwashed. That's being complicit. That's making evil choices. Could she have said no? Could she have gone to the police? Could she have refused to help? Yes. Yes to all of those. She chose not to. And for the rest of her life, she claimed she'd changed, that she was sorry, that she deserved a second chance. But here's the thing. Those children don't get a second chance. Pauline Reed doesn't get to grow up. John Kilbride doesn't get to have a life. Keith Bennett's mother died without knowing where her son is buried. Leslie Ann Downey suffered unimaginable terror before she died. So, no, I don't think Hindley deserved sympathy. I don't think she deserved release. And I'm glad she died in prison. Ian Brady spent the rest of his life in Ashworth Psychiatric Hospital. He went on hunger strike multiple times, wanting to die. The courts wouldn't let him. He had to stay alive. He died in May 2017 at age 79. Myra Hindley stayed in prison. She kept applying for parole, kept getting denied. The public hated her with a passion. Her mugshot became one of the most recognizable images in Britain. She died in November 2002 at age 60 from respiratory failure. Neither of them ever showed genuine remorse. Brady was openly proud of what he'd done. Hindley claimed remorse, but it always felt performative, like she was saying what she thought people wanted to hear. The families of the victims? They never got justice. Not really. How can you get justice for something like this? The killers went to prison, yes, but their children are still dead, still gone forever. Winnie Johnson, Keith Bennett's mother, campaigned until the day she died to find her son's body. She never gave up hope. She died in 2012 without ever knowing where Keith is buried. That's the real legacy of the Moor's murders. Permanent, unending grief. The case changed Britain. It changed how people thought about safety, about trusting strangers, about evil. Before the Moor's murders, there was this innocence, this idea that bad things didn't happen in nice neighborhoods to good people. After, everyone knew that monsters could look like anyone, could be your neighbor, could be that nice couple down the street, and it changed how people thought about women and violence. Myra Hindley shattered the myth that women couldn't be violent, couldn't be predators. She proved that evil isn't gendered, that women can be just as capable of monstrous acts as men. I want to end by talking about Keith Bennett, because his story isn't over. Keith Bennett was 12 years old when Brady and Hindley murdered him in 1964. His body was buried somewhere on Saddleworth Moor. And 60 years later, he's still there. His family, his brothers, his extended family, they still search. Every few years, there's a new search, new technology, ground-penetrating radar, cadaver dogs, volunteers combing the moors. In 2022, there was a massive search based on a tip. They thought they'd finally found him, spent weeks searching a specific area. Keith's family just wants to bring him home. That's all. They want to give him a proper burial. They want to know where he is. They want closure. And somewhere, Ian Brady took that information to his grave. He knew where Keith was, and he refused to tell anyone. Even when he was dying, even when there was no reason to keep that secret anymore, he wouldn't say. That's the level of evil we're dealing with. Not just murder, not just torture, but the deliberate, calculated decision to cause maximum ongoing pain to a family. Forever. So if you learned something from this video, if this made you think, if you're as angry as I am about this case, subscribe, share this. Make sure people remember these names. Not Brady and Hindley, screw them. Remember Pauline Reed, John Kilbride, Keith Bennett, Leslie Ann Downey, Edward Evans. Those are the names that matter. Those are the people who deserve to be remembered. The Moors murders happened between 1963 and 1965. 5 children were murdered by Ian Brady and Myra Hindley. 4 bodies were recovered. Keith Bennett is still missing. This case is considered one of the worst crimes in British history. Not just because of the murders themselves, but because of the torture, the photographs, the tape recordings, the absolute lack of remorse. Ian Brady died in 2017. Myra Hindley died in 2002. Both died in custody. Both spent decades in prison. Neither ever showed genuine remorse. The families of the victims have lived with this tragedy for 60 years. Some, like Winnie Johnson, died without getting closure. Others are still searching, still hoping to find Keith Bennett. This case changed Britain. It changed how we think about evil, about trust, about safety. It proved that monsters can look like anyone. That evil isn't always obvious. That sometimes the nice couple next door are hiding unimaginable darkness. If you want to hear more cases like this, not because they're entertaining, but because we need to remember, we need to understand how this happens so we can prevent it, then subscribe. Leave a comment. Tell me what you think. Tell me if I got something wrong. Tell me if there's a case you want me to cover. Because these stories matter. These victims matter. And the only way to honor them is to remember them. To say their names. To never forget what happened. Pauline Reed, John Kilbride, Keith Bennett, Leslie Ann Downey, Edward Evans. Remember them.